2021, four men got together to make a radio show that nobody asked for. This is the result.
Welcome to Broad Street Radio. I'm Michael Morris with my new co-host, at least for this other week, since everybody else is gone, Stan Willis. Stan, how are you?
I'm doing great, Mike. How are you?
I'm good. Willis Spangler Starling is the place to be, and the biggest question everybody wants answered is, which is your favorite, Willis Spangler or a Starling?
Well, since my wife is the Willis
Spangler. Sorry. If she's watching, I jumped the gun. He didn't mean that.
Yeah. Phil's not nearly as cute as she is.
Speak for yourself. So here's the thing that's fun about this is that, yeah, we want to talk about law and auto accidents because that's always fun. But it's the off-air stuff that we're talking about. So by the time people see this, it'll be a few weeks down the road. However, we were talking about Dogecoin, Bitcoin, and how you went all in. You put your wife's retirement in on Dogecoin, and then when Elon Musk was on, it tanked. How are you going to break that news to her?
I don't know. I might have to move out. I actually mortgaged the house.
Will your mistress let you in?
Well, I guess if I had one, probably, but maybe not.
If Dogecoin would have taken off, you would have one. You'd have one on her way here from some Russian country in a box. No offense to boxes. What I wanted to talk about today, though, is we have so much fun talking about everything else. So we will eventually get around to the law. Who cares? But we were talking the last show about how the media kind of boils things up.
Yes, it does.
And in my business being in media, we always say if it bleeds, it leads. So the news is there's never any local boy saves cat, goes home, has ice cream. It's always someone lost their hand because of some gender-specific rule at school, right? When you see that stuff on TV, do you think, oh, God, I better brush up on that law because they might be coming in here? You know what I mean? Like all these lawsuits, I'm not saying they're frivolous, but it's like a person wants to sue a school system, like there's a local school system they want to sue because listen to this, a levy doesn't pass because they vote it down. And now they want to sue the school system because they don't have money. They organized the rally to get rid of it, and then said, but there's no money. Okay, now that's your fault. Like, do you see that and just go, you have no idea what the hell you're even talking about?
Yeah, I have this this problem where I think logically, and so sometimes I really have a hard time, figuring some of this stuff out.
Well, in the last year, wouldn't you say, like, I see a lot of people, Facebook is the best place to learn if your friends either drink during the day or just act emotionally, like almost like when you saw Jerry Springer, you're like, people don't act like this. When you have Facebook, you realize all your friends and some of your family do that.
Everybody really does act
because
like
everyone jumps to conclusions.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, you look at the LeBron James thing with the shooting that happened out here.
Right.
I always thought, like, I go back to To Kill a Mockingbird. That's my knowledge of the law. But when I think about libel suits and that kind of thing, like, that seems pretty libelous that you went after somebody without having the facts. That's what I'm looking at. Everybody else is looking at the emotion. I'm thinking, what's that check going to look like if he chooses to sue, and can he sue?
You mean the officer?
The officer, not LeBron. I don't think LeBron can sue him.
No, but I mean the standards for that would be actually slander because it was written. I
was going to say slander next, but again, I told you I've only seen a few law movies.
Libel is spoken, slander is written. Does
that guy have a case?
Huh?
Like, could he sue LeBron?
I don't know.
Listen, I'm going to paint the rest.
It's a fuzzy area of the law. They have, like, every law has elements. That's what we break them down to. So for like libel and slander, you have to have the statement. It has to be false. It has to be publicized. You get the publicized, and then there have to be damages, and then you have to be able to quantify those damages.
Okay, so I'm going to feed this part to you. If the guy can't be an officer and I ask to move to a desk, that'd be a loss of wages. Technically,
it could be.
I'm not looking for this. I'm just saying maybe you and I get in on this. I get a little piece. This is like a referral fee. But I'm just saying things like that when you look at these statements, like if you looked at the beginning of 2021, it's hard to even say that because I'm still on 2019. But all these statements that you're going against Donald Trump saying he's inciting riots. But on the other side, you have this. If that is more slander or causing riots, like I would think the law profession is looking at it like, I almost don't want to touch this because even if you win, you lose.
Well, yeah. And part of the problem, like if you're Donald Trump, you're a public figure.
Right.
And so there's a whole different standard. There's a whole lot more leeway for what people can say about you. And, I mean, look at what they print in those magazines, those paparazzi magazines. I mean, a lot of that stuff is.
Well, the Queen is very upset with Meghan.
Right. But a lot of that stuff is not based on any information at all. It's just an educated guess that somebody's
Are you saying that you know Meghan Markle? Is that what you're saying right now?
I am not saying that.
All right. I don't know either, but I read one of those rags at the Walmart the other day, and I found out a lot about the monarchy.
Right. Right. And, you know, according to Men in Black, it's the best reporting on the planet.
These are the hot sheets. Best investigative reporting on the planet. Go ahead, read the New York Times if you want to. They get lucky sometimes. Thanks, Manny.
So
it's the first Men in Black reference and probably the last one we're going to have. But see, that's a perfect example of where you like, I look at this and I'm like, there's no way that you can say, like when they're posting Brad Pitt is a drunk and blah, 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 blah. They're slandering his character, but he'd have to take the time to go, no, I'm not a drunk. I just smoke a shitload of weed. You know what I mean? Like you're almost waiting for that because it brings more attention. That's all that TMZ is.
Right. And I guess within, you know, as far as the people who are stars or who are famous for being famous, for them, attention's attention.
Right.
So, you know, if your name's being blasted all over the place, then that's helping your personal brand. And if your personal brand's going up, then your paying gigs are around the corner and you're getting invited to all the right parties. So
I need to get someone to slander me.
So that's what you need is you need a big public fight with somebody, you know, a big public argument with somebody.
I'm gonna bring it to this. I don't think there's only one other person in this room that I gotta know. But sticking to the news coverage, like here's the biggest. This is what I hate about when I'm watching television. Is it's literally there for the commercials. It's not really there to educate you. It is to get you there to stay through the commercial breaks because that's how stations make money. Mm-hmm. Being right doesn't matter. Having ratings and having an audience does. But I hear these things about they should sue this person or this is, you know, they don't have legal experts. They have somebody that works for like the New York Times that goes, well, I write the, you know, the TV guide portion of this, but they should definitely, this person should go to prison and all that. Mm-hmm. We try people through the media before we even get them in a courthouse.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, it's going to be interesting with a lot of these cases, these big public cases that are going on. It's going to be interesting whether or not the convictions withstand the appeal, just because of all the public outcry around it. I mean, we now have a situation where we have politicians, even the president, you know, weighing in on jury verdicts and things like that prior to the verdict,
and they're not sequestered.
Right. So, you know, I think things like that. I mean, they're not. Everyone has a right to say what they think. I'm not trying to make a value judgment on any of that. I'm not even trying to make a value judgment on whether or not there's a guilty or an innocent. The only thing I know is that those kinds of things are not helpful to the system.
Right.
Because the idea by having people tried by a jury of their peers is to make sure that in that particular instance, in that particular case, that all of the facts come in and people impartially determine whether or not that person is guilty. And if we start trying people in public opinion rather than by true guilt and innocence, then there really is, at the end of the day, no judicial system.
Well, I look back on, and I know the greatest, the way I'm saying this is going to come out so wrong. Not greatest, like, yes, I was looking forward to this. the OJ case. The nation and the world was wrapped around this case every day. And people were watching this, and it's like, when you actually see I'm not knocking your profession. I'm saying my attention span would be like this, like, moving on, Cato. But when you're watching them interview the maid and ask them multiple times, and she doesn't speak English very well, and then it's like they keep asking her over and over. That thing went on for 11 months, and then Cato doesn't. No one's giving anything except bad juju to the juice. But the jury, because of the course of this thing, and because of where they had the trial, it was stacked a certain way. So when he gets out, and then they say, "Well, we knew he was guilty, but she asked for it." Like, that's the quotes from some of the jurors. I think for once we actually got to see what happens when celebrity takes over the law. And I don't think it's ever changed since. I mean, Johnny Cochran had his own talk show for about 15 minutes. That's not how this is supposed to work. Like, the president's not supposed to be a reality TV star. I know we kind of did it backwards. But now we're almost watching it like you're watching the car crash. And people with no knowledge are snapping emotionally and saying this is what it's going to be because they feel like they're going to win. Like the OJ trial. The only person that won there was OJ. Because he didn't pay the attorneys. He didn't care about anything after the fact. And everybody was like, that was on his side. He never acknowledged them.
Well, he's out finding the real murderer now.
You know what? Here's the sad part. The guy was locked up for like 10 or 11 years. He could have found the murderer if he hadn't lost that time. And now he's old. You know how hard it is to hunt? Only Indiana Jones could be 80 and find somebody like that.
That's true. That's true. But, Harrison Ford's a special human being.
Yeah. Did you see that last one where he was in the refrigerator and his nuclear bomb goes off?
Yeah.
That's all based in fact, by the way.
Absolutely. You wouldn't fry if you did that.
No, because he shut the fridge door, Stan. Yeah. You're going to sit here and come on the show and rag on that horrible movie. When you see things like that like when Court TV was a thing, you were a practicing lawyer, right?
Yeah.
So when you watched it, were you just like, is it kind of like a card game and you knew what the other guy was holding? You're like, oh, they're screwed.
Well, Court TV, I thought was, what they do for like the Judge Judy and all those kinds of things. They usually they surf the nation in what if every state's kind of small claim system, and they get people who are already representing themselves in these disputes, and they bring them. My cousin actually got to do this. It was
serious.
Yeah, she had this whole dog bite case. Not dog bite, but this whole. Anyway, it was funny, but. So they search through all the small claims records and they bring these people to the studio and they just play that out and the people agree and then they basically pay the judgment. So you get a trip to New York and no judgment, and stuff. And you go in and you.
But you could still lose, right?
You could lose, but they're going to pay it for you. So like
so it doesn't matter. It's rigged anyway.
Well, I mean, it doesn't matter who wins or lose, but you still have all the emotion. They still want to be right. They still want to win.
Right.
So that's where those cases come from. The Court TV thing, I never watched that all that much, but
I just found it weird because it was like a sports center for kids, and it'd be like, well, obviously he did hack that person's arm off with a saw, but before that, this person beat him up, and it's like they're giving a play. So I got where they were going with it.
Right.
But the OJ thing was the peak because so at the same time OJ's going on, you have the Menendez brother. I mean, you couldn't only if Ted Bundy had something going on would it have been a cooler thing. But you got to keep having high profile murders. Right. All they did was they took that concept and they started doing on Nightline, I guess. Yeah. Like, let's just show all these murders. At the end of the day, we're glorifying violence. I'm all for that. But at some point, you have to go. You are telling me one side of the story. Everything has a bias to it. You're telling me the side you want me to fall on. Right? Because if I watch it on TV, well, they did the research.
Right.
Like, I didn't even know they pay the judgments out at the end. Now I want to go on. I want to assault Nate for this damn microphone just to go on that show. What others? I mean, there's Judge Judy. What about Maury?
Oh, there's Judge Joe Brown, right? And then
there was a lady judge. I remember that. And then
Maury's doing the "Who's Your Daddy" thing, right?
But I would go on that if they're like, "You're the father." If the show's paying for it, I don't care. I mean, there's a limit to how much I can watch during the day. But Maury was on during college, and there were a lot of people out there having kids that were not married.
Yeah.
Like, where do you stand on that?
Yeah.
I'm all for it. I love kids. I'm not going to raise them all, but I love children. I see that we don't. The writer strike. So there's 2 writer strikes. If you look at it, around 95 and about 2003,
Right.
that brought all this reality TV on. So what's the easiest thing to do? Let's follow these lawyers or their caseloads or the cops. I mean, cops was a big deal anyway, because who doesn't like to see meth on TV? But they were trying to find everything they could that was that kind of thing where we could just film it, because it costs nothing to edit.
Right.
But that's how we think things are, that the cops only show up at trailer parks, and that lawyers always win cases.
Well, this is just what Elon was talking about in his stand-up. He's like, somebody does something one time and you think that's how they are.
Right.
Because he's talking about the Joe Rogan thing with him, but,
Here, okay, so let's talk about the Joe Rogan, Elon smoking the marijuana. What I found interesting is this guy, obviously, this wasn't his first time. Like, I've never seen one of these funny cigarettes.
No, what do I do with this?
So the guy literally says that he does drugs. Like, he's not Jim Morrison, but he's doing drugs. And so does Joe Rogan, by the way. The guy is building technology that no one else can do. Leave him alone. Let him do whatever he wants.
Right.
But the stock of Tesla shot down because they saw him smoke that thing. If they'd have seen him smoke out of Joe's ape head bong, he probably would be bankrupt. I wanted to see that. Have you ever seen that thing? It's huge. But I don't understand why we put more importance on somebody smoking weed versus their output.
Drinking alcohol.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
Right.
Like, I'm not saying we have to have prohibition, but what's the difference?
It's not like he was shooting heroin on the set.
No. I mean, have you ever tried to do, I can't even hold my arm straight. But
I have this fear of
I don't like
causing
needles.
myself pain.
Yeah, I don't like needles. But like if I was running really fast and I ran into it, then I wouldn't really think about it. But I'd have to have a friend that's like kind of holding it
That's
out.
how you get it. I didn't have the heroin, I swear, officer. I was just running along.
I wasn't chasing the dragon. I was running a race and he ran into me. Is that a defense?
Needle came out of nowhere.
Yeah. I could sue somebody if they jab me with a heroin needle.
You probably could.
Is that workers' comp if I can't go to work?
If it happened at work, maybe.
Well, technically, since I own my own company, I'm always at work.
Well, okay.
Nate, write that down because I think I'm going to try to run into a heroin needle. I wanted to also ask this because every lawyer has like their favorite, whether it's shows or movies. What's your favorite law movie that's the most like what you think your life is?
Wow.
Because I always think a lawyer will say a civil action with John Travolta, mainly because I think a lot of lawyers wear wigs.
Well, that would be if we were in England.
Yeah,
we were barristers, then we might have to do that.
A barrister gave me this coffee this morning.
Oh, nice.
From Starbucks.
It's a barista.
Well, I don't care if you want to put a little accent on it. No, I just always wondered, I think people think that they are Matt Damon from The Rainmaker, and they end up being the person from Devil's Advocate that Al Pacino plays.
I don't know. I don't know of a lawyer movie that I think really. Maybe The Office.
Did you ever see Daredevil where he's blind, but he's fighting crime at night? Do you ever feel like that's you?
No, I don't feel like that.
Okay, but that really happened.
Honestly, most days you feel like you're just a guy going in and doing your job. I mean,
what is that day to day like? Because it's probably a lot of reading, right?
There's a lot of reading. I don't. In my position now, is I'm kind of the manager of everything. I kind of run the whole company, and so I don't do a lot of actual legal work anymore. So you're the quality control guy. Okay.
So in the Marine Corps, they're all grunts and you're walking around chewing on a cigar and just yelling at them?
No, more or less what my job is to make sure everything is in place for everybody else to do their job.
What a boring answer. I really thought he'd like the cigar part.
I would like it like that, but it's not
it's like that. It's a no smoking facility?
Yeah, it is.
I've been in that building, which is awesome because the first time I met Stan, I was spinning in a chair because I thought it was such a cool little room. I didn't expect him to come in. I didn't care. I went full rotation on that. I didn't care what he thought. I'm going to complete this. We talked the last time about commercials we see and how much it offends us. But in your business, the auto accident situation, like when they're coming to you, how are they hearing about you to begin with? I mean, don't say advertise. I mean, there's got to be somebody that says this. They're really great
honestly,
at this.
We get most of our clients from other clients. I mean, that's our biggest advertising. Of course, we've run a few TV spots and we're on the radio.
You've done this podcast.
We've done this awesome podcast that has far greater reach than anything else I've ever. This is
the number one show called Broad Street Radio, other than two others that are called Broad Street Radio. Did you know that?
I didn't know that. That's pretty awesome.
If we finish that way at the end of the year, we get a bowling trophy with our name on it.
A bowling trophy?
Well, I mean, I bought a bowling trophy. I just never bowled. I just want to give it to Nate for all his editing work.
Nate deserves a bowling trophy.
I just don't know if he'll carry it around every day like I want him to.
He doesn't have the shoes for bowling.
That's not the point. Listen, do you ever look at somebody and you're just like, why does he have a scimitar on his back? Because he has one. It doesn't matter what he's wearing. Can he use it? No, but it's a cool thing to look at. Mm-hmm. I like how you're drifting me off into this. What was my original question about the law? Oh, auto accident. My question was, how do you stand out when there's so many people that do this? Because I look at it, there's two ways. You're a chop shop, and we're just going to grind out every case we can get, or you're going to take your time with these, so it's more, you're investing your time and your emotion into these cases. Did you ever feel like being the chop shop? Did you ever look at it and say, I could have a Ferrari if I just,
I'm not built that way. I'm not. I never wanted to be a chop shop. Never wanted to be a turn and burn kind of a place. But we don't. We try to take our time with cases. We try to make sure that we sit down with clients. If you come into our office, you can actually meet with an attorney.
I did think that was cool to be able to walk, like everybody's like office was unique. Like your office, I'd never seen anything like it. You were like I'm
special.
Yeah, you were in like Mr. Spacely's office, and then everybody else, but it looked like it was well lived in their areas, like it was their own.
Right.
So you're seeing kind of this culture within a culture, which I thought was cool, because most law offices I've been in is, they have 10,000 books, and I know you didn't read one of them. Like, I know if I replaced one with a comic book, you wouldn't notice because you don't look at that wall. You just have it for me when I walk in.
Right. Right. And the books are irrelevant because everybody does their research online anyway.
Right. Those books are just there so you could shoot a commercial or take a picture like, I'm a lawyer. See my books?
Books are there because 100 years ago I bought them.
Right.
And I don't want to throw them away.
Half of them are encyclopedias. This is a bird.
Well, actually, the books that you see are probably the digest. It's probably actually law books.
But that's what I mean. But on TV, you always see, I know the case, and without looking, I'm going to pull this from the J section. Yeah. And it's not. It's like, they're like, well, let's Google it. And the whole time I'm like, get that book. You paid for that. Get that thing off the shelf. And they never do that.
Yeah. That's why we don't have any books.
Are you telling me 50% of what I think about the law is a lie?
At least.
Good. I'm going to think it's the 50% that's good.
Yeah, it's good. So you asked me how we get cases, though. It's interesting because most of ours come from word of mouth. We get. Our website's pretty cool, and so we get a few people that'll Google us.
But it's an emotional decision that you have to make, right?
And it's an important decision. And the funny thing is that when you get in a car accident, right? Especially if you're not at fault and you're hurt, you get mail. I mean, hundreds of letters from lawyers and chiropractors.
I thought they weren't allowed to do that. I thought they weren't allowed to directly solicit you.
Well, I don't know. Chiropractors may not be allowed to do that.
First of all,
but lawyers can send letters.
Chiropractors aren't even doctors. They are people that are like Subway sandwich artists that happen to go to school for 6 months in Florida. But I mean, terrific profession. Don't get angry about it.
I go to chiropractor all the time.
Shysters. I do too. I'm just saying, guys. Half of them that went to school like in Iowa.
Well, there's only like 3 schools.
I know, but Iowa's like the top choice. Right. You know that? That's like the Syracuse is like the broadcasting school.
My greatest regret in life is that instead of going to chiropractic school in late 80s when I went to law school, I went to law school. Because if I'd gone to chiropractic school, I'd probably be retired now.
You know how banged up your hands and shoulders would be from leaning and press.
Oh, but I have a lot of emotional scars from being an attorney. So,
do you want to talk about that right now?
Not really.
I would love to talk about emotional scars.
About my emotional scars.
Like, we've never had anybody cry on the show yet. It'd just be great for a man to like express himself on the show.
Well, maybe someday I'll try to work myself up.
Nate, see what's available in 2 weeks.
Maybe if we smoke that monkey bong.
I think we should have a monkey bong just sitting there and just see if a guest looks at it and goes, can we smoke out of that? I'm serious. That thing is huge.
Right.
But
here's the thing. And I've just heard about this. I don't know. But if you did that on a show... And
I thought you were talking about auto accidents. You're going back to monkey bong?
I'm talking about the monkey bong.
No, keep going.
I'm talking about the monkey bong.
Keep going.
If you did the monkey bong on a show and the paranoia set in, how would that work? I mean...
Well, this is the thing I see about Joe Rogan's show.
Right.
So I was watching it. I think the first one was like 11 or 12 years ago. Uh-huh. It was a setup like we had. But because he was an actor and a stand-up comic, he could get people to come on, but it'd be the same people all the time. It'd be Maynard from Tools. So it was really cool that was going on. But
gotta shut this off.
Oh my God, it's Joe Rogan. What's the chances?
Hey, Joe, how you doing?
But what I thought was interesting is as it's gone on, if you watch Joe looks like a pumpkin, like in November when you leave it on the porch and it starts rotting. His head is changing shape, and he's just openly smoking on this show. Yeah. And his guests are talking about it like it's 4 hours of content and 20 minutes of you actually learn something. But I thought it was interesting. He's like literally like, yeah, this strain, this and this. And Elon's like, yeah, like I'm aware. I've got a dispensary in my house. I just found it odd that like your broadcast, like there's got to be some rule that you're violating. There's no like FCC control on YouTube.
There probably is. I mean, honestly, there's one guy, John Whitehead's his name. He writes for, he has a thing called the, something that it slips my mind now. But anyway, he does all these studies and things. And according to him, most people break at least 3 federal laws every day that they don't even know exist.
I'm working on 5 today and a day and over.
Having a good day today. Yeah.
But I do find that odd. Like you're openly doing drugs and saying so on YouTube, and then it stays up. So it's not like, oh, I heard you did this like on the radio.
Right.
I could literally go look it up, Joe Rogan monkey bong, and there it is. And it's like, and there's somebody famous sitting there.
But my point is, why wouldn't you? I mean, wouldn't you get paranoid at some point? Say, why is everybody looking at me?
I couldn't have a straight conversation with somebody for 2 more hours after that.
Right. That'd be, yeah.
I mean, we were panicking because we didn't have drinks to sit here and talk the first round. So
right.
We got to get a monkey bong. I'm gonna look at Amazon and see how much it costs. I don't care if it's $800. It's going on this table. And if we take the show on the road, we're taking the monkey bong with us. Stan, unfortunately, we've run out of time, but I want you to come back soon because.
Happy to.
This was really fun, and especially since the other 3 guys are not here, I didn't know that we could fill this much time, but this is great. Is there anything bad? Like we have a streak going where we always end on a failure or a down note. Anybody die in your family or anything? I just don't want to end the show on a positive.
My niece is getting married next weekend.
There you go. That's terrible. Don't get married. Play the show for her. Don't do it. It's a mistake. You're going to lose half your stuff in 4 years. That's it. That's it for Broad Street Radio this week. We'll see you next week.